Today, I'm joined by someone who you either know for running a huge forum, Random Select, or is a bit infamous to you for one reason or the other. I don't really know the specifics. Hopefully, we might learn some of those today, but that's not really the goal. Mr. KungFuMan himself, who is not only one of the ballsiest people I know because he took a name from the first character that comes with Mugen, rather than also just like running with it in general. I'm glad to have you here because I know you've seen a lot, done a lot. You have a huge forum that's been through a lot, and I feel like it's going to be a good time.
Well, glad to be here.
Great. So, you have been around for over 10 years. I don't even know how long you actually have been around.
Let's see. I first showed up around early 2003. Popped up on the M.U.G.E.N dev forum first. Back then, I was just under Darkside X. I was still working with the Infinity engine.
Infinity Cat?
No, actually, that came much later. You know Baldur's Gate and whatnot?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff? Yeah. They all run on an engine called the Infinity engine, similar to how M.U.G.E.N is the M.U.G.E.N engine.
Okay.
And it was a modding community based around modifying those games. One of them in particular was Planescape Torment. A lot of people considered it unmoddable because it was so different from the others. I'd done work to get it there, but it was kind of one of those things where people, like, they're grateful for your work, but at the same time don't give a damn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, on a whim, I was looking up artwork for a signature and ran across Eli's Venom. Originally, I thought that, oh, hey, look, somebody's ripping graphics from arcade games. And no, it turned out it was actually a full on character. And so I just kind of got interested in it from there.
So that's where you would say it all began for you, or is there more
Yeah,
to that?
Yeah, it's kind of where it started. I showed up there on the forum, got used to the way the engine worked, figured out pretty quickly how it was working. Back then, it was a issue where DOS Music was working for some people, but for a lot of folks that were switching to the newer version of Windows, it would stop. So they were stuck with either DOS or loading Linux Music in a virtual environment.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a very different community to what you have now. I mean, yeah, like, I think Roleno will even touch on this when you were interviewing him. The whole thing there where games were kind of put on a courtesy hold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pretty big thing back then, too. I mean, SNK, S versus C Chaos had just come out, and a lot of people were banning listing any works from that out of respect out of SNK, stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd like to get into that a little bit later. So let's instead focus on your first character, which you sent me, which is Tack, also known as that one enemy from Kirby that would steal your power. What's the story behind that guy?
I started and unfortunately not finished a lot of characters. Tack was really the first one I'd done where I managed to do it from scratch and managed to make something of it.
Mm-hmm.
It worked out pretty well. I mean, I just played Kirby Superstar and liked how he turned out. There were early sprite reps of him.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing was the whole fact that a lot of people were doing Kirby characters all at once. Eli was going to start doing Poppy. Jared obviously had done his guy. Everybody knew about Blade Knight being that one obscure character. I think Legato made him? Legato B?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to put something together, and quickly he came about. I know a few people were kind of confused why he was a little different, but I just wanted him to work that way.
Yeah, so is there like any other kind of thought process behind the kind of gameplay that he had?
The big thing with Tack is I wanted to make a little character you could contend with, but at the same time could offer some variety in gameplay. Like, you weren't just going to use one bread and butter combo over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Kirby Superstar, he's pretty strong because once you get him, you just start rapid firing punches. And that's part of where his whole punch mechanic comes from. But the bombs, whatnot, for anti-air or the lunch rush ripoff with the little extra guy at the end were basically designed just to give him some variety and give him a bit more depth. He's not the most complex character. That's part of the reason why he has the number of intros and win poses he had. I just wanted to give him some sort of personality. From there, he kind of evolved into me wanting to make him an unofficial mascot for Random Select itself.
I see. So, what did you like the most about him?
Basically, I can make him cute. Well, that's it in a nutshell. You have characters that are strong, you have characters that are aggressive, and sometimes it's just nice to make something cute.
Yeah, I understand. That makes sense. I can't really say that I like my first character anymore, and I barely make hints and pieces at it, and I'll just save it for my own. Anyway, so what was the biggest challenge that you faced when you were in the process of making that character?
Oh, having enough sprites. A lot of them basically had to be Franken-sprited or drawn mostly from scratch. Had to figure out the art style. One of the things I ended up doing down the road is going through the game and just using art money, a tool that a lot of us had figured out how to use to hack memory addresses
Mm-hmm.
in the game to just cycle through the sprites. And even then, you don't get much because there's just not much to them. But it gave enough parts that I was able to put things together and come up with little ideas.
Interesting. So, say that this character just came out today, and you went and go down and you picked it up and started playing with them. What would be some of the feedback that you would have given yourself from now?
That's kind of the weird thing, because like a lot of my characters, like I'll be happy with them, but they'll be mixed. Tackle seemed to always get the most positive feedback. He's short, and that's probably been his one thing that has been held against him. But you compare it to say like Hashimoto there that I
Mm-hmm.
put together from Kakuyaro,
Yeah.
a lot of people will say they hate the fact he can't jump. That's an
Mm-hmm.
intentional thing. I wanted a character where you actually had to utilize other things.
Hmm.
At the same time, the AI is so brutal that a lot of people come back and say, oh, well, this is actually fun to fight against. It's just not fun to control. And looking back, I can contend that he is not really very fun to control because you keep wanting to hold up and do that whole leap in, do bread and butter, and you can't.
Yeah, jump ins are a staple of pretty much fighting games in general, although it's not the safest option. And in some fighters, it's not really a good option at all, but it's an option no less. And that would have threw me for a loop too. I think I've had that character, but it was so long ago that I don't remember playing with it. It had to be at least like freaking 2007 or so. And I'm not even sure if it was out then. I just know it was a long time ago.
Hashimoto ended up one of those characters I enjoyed seeing a lot more in action, especially in things like Kamekaze's whole bonus run when he
Mm-hmm.
was still around. But yeah, beyond that, he's not very fun to control, and I will openly admit that. That's something I'm trying to rectify with newer works, make them so that they're good on both ends. And
Yeah.
Tack was more or less refined for that. When Aron there let me work on CO and balance him out, that was another thing I did there too. Incorporated a lot of the stuff, notes I put together with Dark Savior for KOF
Mm-hmm.
and work into him, so he was more smoother to control, but at the same time also balanced out, so his damage wasn't through the roof like the original was.
Yeah, that's interesting because I was always confused about that whole CO ordeal, but I guess that answers that. So the community, we briefly spoke about it. So when did you open your forum in general, or what was it like at that time for you?
Okay, let's see. A few years after I showed up, I became a global moderator at MUGEN Guild. I started using KungFuMan as a name because nobody else had. There honestly was no other
Mm-hmm.
KungFuMan. I think there was like one on the MGBR
Mm-hmm.
that had just never done anything with his account. So over there, I was like Shin KungFuMan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but what had happened was Valodum of Mugen Guild had offered me a moderator position and basically said, okay, well, you know what, you're pretty much Kung Fu Man. Let's go ahead, just change your name permanently to that. So we did that. So Dark Jet X was gone, and now I was Kung Fu Man. This had to be at least 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Thing is, though, Guild was a very different Guild. A lot of people in the community were still not very happy with the way things were going. A lot of things that were getting okayed. The whole thing with private things being leaked, spread around, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Random Select started out as its own forum. It's just me wanting to do something a little different, take it somewhere else. Around the same time, Val had said, go ahead and start working on the database if you want, because I've worked with Nooner, and Nooner had left at that point. So you had Mugen Guild's database, but it was just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've seen early Guild, yeah, that database was kind of a mess.
Yeah, I've never seen it actually, so
you might be able to still find it on their old web archive pages. Around the same time, Junior Chillage had worked on a completely new design for MUGEN Guild, and they were going to use it, but nobody had ever given him the go-ahead. He was literally just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a hold of him, and we started just using that for Random Select's design. He was actually one of the big players to help build the site and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
The forum was set up pretty standard and whatnot. It was not something Val was particularly happy about, having a competing site right on his, but he didn't feel too bad until I kind of blew up Guild.
Really?
Yeah. See, I kind of got a little. You know that point where you have a moderator of a forum and they basically hand the car keys over to a bunch of guys who really don't like that forum?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Let's see. I had about 16 people running my account at once, from what I was told.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Rolando had changed the username to Oppenheimer. Forums were deleted. I mean, at that point, global moderators had almost unprecedented control on Guild.
Really?
Yeah, it was, in retrospect, probably one of the dumbest things I've done, because while it was meant as kind of, you know what, no, I'm just going to say it was one of the dumbest things I've done, because it ended up causing more damage than it ever could have anything else. A lot of people were set back 3 days. People had to repost stuff, and that was not cool.
Yeah.
But what it led to is Random Select's host was a affiliate of Guild,
Mm-hmm.
and they did not take kindly to that, so there went Random Select. And Legato and Shoshingo asked Eli about giving me hosting, because basically everybody had been involved in that, and I just got my place blown up. So Random Select got set up on the IXL network.
Mm-hmm.
Scion came on board as the lady that helped out handle the forum and whatnot. Very brilliant woman. I kind of miss having her around a lot. And Random Select just grew out of there. I worked on the pages daily. I was pretty much the site's own worst enemy, though, at the same time, in a lot of ways. But that's a more complex story if you want to hear it.
Well, like, you've already set it up, so we may as well finish it. There's no real time limit on these things, so this is interesting.
Well, the whole idea behind Random Select was basically a forum for creators. We were, at the same time, I did want to evolve it into kind of a gaming site. I knew that you can't have MUGEN forever.
Mm-hmm.
If you have just MUGEN, it's going to die out eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the MUGEN community today is not the MUGEN community of 2005. 10 years, the crowd's thinned a lot. A lot of people like, oh god, why did I even touch this?
Mm-hmm.
But I was trying to set up basically a community-minded thing for creators versus just everybody going, give me, give me, give me. A big thing back then was the whole idea of leechers.
Mm-hmm.
People that contributed nothing but beg for everything. And in all honesty, that was a terrible route to go. I mean, you do have some people are honest leeches,
Mm-hmm.
but they're like literal people, not just whole groups. And we treated our fan base badly as a result.
Mm-hmm.
Especially me. I had people that were utilizing the website that at one point several creators actually went on strike.
Really?
Well, even Potts. Potts was actually one of the first people to come out of it, but basically took down our websites. And I had people flipping out on me. I had emails galore flipping out. Folks on Chan screaming that they went to go look for something and now they couldn't find it. How dare I? You had people linking to individual pages of the site instead to get around. We just basically removed the index HTML.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it just got nuts to the point we lost that balance all around of giving people what they wanted, but at the same time, people appreciating what was given. And I was blooming well lost it. I was doing stupid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was when you had the whole thing, I think Django mentioned, where I tried copyrighting the concept of Hashimoto. I'm going to say it, I was retarded.
Well, I mean, when big things happen and people act out of desperation, you can't exactly expect them to make the best decision.
No, man, that was retarded. I gotta say it. I made the thing about me. I made it about wanting to do something better under my guise, and that wasn't fair to anybody.
Well, the point is, you learned from it, and you didn't let it keep going. Like you kind of came out of it, I would say, and you can look back and be like, that was a very bad time period of decisions, but I'm past that now. And I think it was important that we hear that because a lot of people don't really know what happened back then. They just see a few of us either talking about you in some way or form, and they might be concerned about that. Either way, they would not really know about Random Select's inception and what its purpose was at the time. They just would probably see it as another Mugen form until about now. And that's what I wanted more than anything when I wanted to talk to you. So, moving along. Did you ever ask anybody for help when you were making your creations back then? And if so, how did that go back then?
Oh, probably the biggest thing was just when I was trying to do full games. After a while, you kind of get tired. All along, you ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're in a community and you're not reaching out to others and not wanting to work with them, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, no person is going to be an island. No person is going to be another Warusaki 3. I mean, even Potts, when he needed a hand with someone, would reach out to folks.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of things I tried to do came up with concepts like working with Matiso. I think that was his name. We'd come up with a concept of animations in a character so that you could define things like blood color and whatnot.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, the biggest problem with Mugen is on a global scale, you have a lot of characters have little interactions and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no way for player one when they hit player two to know, okay, do this. So things like blood color, gender, and so forth just wasn't there unless you put every single character's name in there.
Mm-hmm.
And one idea we'd come up with was to utilize animation values. There was like a whole list that he ended up cooking up based off that concept. And for a long time, it was in the optional admin standards, I think it was, when it was up at Guild. It was a massive thread.
Yeah, it still is.
Yeah, it's basically all little custom hit animations and whatnot. I don't think anybody ever used that though. I think like a few people did, but because that's been the biggest problem always when it comes to a lot of stuff in Mugen. I mean, you could set a standard, but if nobody uses a standard, is it really a standard?
Yeah, well, I mean, I recently started putting it on a lot of my stuff, but at the same time, there's no way I'm going to put it on everybody because I'm at the lovely number of 104 characters, so that's not
Yeah.
happening with me.
Well, it's a little bit easier now with things like Fighter Factory. I mean, that tool, holy hell, that's involved.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when that thing would eat your character. Let me put it that way. I remember when MGBR was considered one of the worst tool makers because a lot of people just did not like the Brazilian Mugen community,
Mm-hmm.
which wasn't really fair to them either. I mean, their works were kind of messed up. They also got the brunt of a lot of the oh look, this person's leaked this thing here, and that really wasn't what they were doing either.
Mm-hmm.
That ended up being certain other individuals who were actually pulling that stuff. And to be honest, I feel back then even the Brazilian Mugen community got hit a little too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, just went on a tangent there.
I mean, it's fine because I've heard from them. Well, I've heard them mentioned by a few people. But either way, so say that somebody came to you today and they were like, "Hey, I want to work with this engine. Do you have any advice for me or some things that I should know?" Like, what would you tell them?
Pretty much try to make your own thing. I know a big part of the community now is being you can take somebody else's work, start building on that, whatnot. Do that to learn from,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, build your own character.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be honest, things were stupidly strict back then where people like, don't use my sprites, don't use my coding. And at the same time, it kind of made sense. Like, you can't say don't use anything, but at the same time, do use everything. Because then you got original characters factored in. You've got people like yourself who put hours upon hours of work into coding, and then somebody just goes, yoink, I'm going to slap my sprites on that.
Yeah, it just happened to me recently, but yeah.
Fun fact, the reason the community got a big way like that happened a lot to Eli, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen that Wario character floating around?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a character called Big Eli King. Basically
Hmm.
supposed to be him and Mugen. It was leaked, and Warner slapped Wario sprites right on top of him.
Yeah,
So that's kind of where a lot of this mentality of
the
don't steal.
unrequestables.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you had people taking things, just slapping on stuff. Think of one point, BBH, for example, Baby Bonnie Hood.
Hmm.
He'd been working on Lilith, and we were all contributing to it. I mean, I gave stuff. Let's see who else. TDS was a big supporter of that thing. And then out of the blue, we started looking. It's like, this looks familiar. Why is this in Japanese? Yeah, it turned out he'd taken MMRs, didn't say anything until someone had actually said something, and we were all contributing to it.
Wow.
Well, that actually led to how Guild is now. There was a big discussion, and a lot of people at Guild basically decided, look, just screw it. Yeah, we might as well just say change the rules, enforce, and that threw a lot of people for a loop.
It did. Definitely threw me for one for sure.
To be honest, I'm not gonna lie, I'm still not 100% happy with it because while I think it did need to be lightened up, I think basically throwing off all the chains. Like, there's a point where you learn, and even just taking coding and taking sprites shouldn't be seen as that big a problem. Sprites can kind of be more of an issue because you have people who will edit sprites, you have people who hand draw sprites, and they look exactly like the original stuff. I mean, Walt was huge on that, for example, with his SNK work. But you can't just take something else, start slapping stuff on it, and then say, "Oh, well, this is I learned how to build this." Like, you don't really learn, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah, like in many ways, I was a staunch supporter of the old rules, and like now I've kind of relaxed a bit.
See, that's kind of where I think needs to be done. Where we need a community where you're still crediting where the source came from, but also respecting if say you came back and said, "Look, dude, I don't want you doing this." I mean, the original days we were assuming by default that was the stance, but people put a lot of hours, people put a lot of work into these things, and I think it's just common courtesy. If you're going to take chunks out, if you're going to take chunks out of things, that's one thing. Just credit. I mean, nobody should say, take down my work because you copied my just defense code. I mean, that's silly.
Yeah.
Even though like, you should credit, but still. But then you have the people who do things like take explode Talbane and then turn in the dark Talbane just by changing the color in the portrait and then sliding that online, saying, "Oh, look, I did this." Like the
Yeah.
explode popped up and said, "Look, take that shit down. Take it down." Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have any last words you want to say just to put out there to or anyone else, or just anything you want to get out in general?
Yeah, in general, I'm happy for the ride, but at the same time, I do feel like I have to say I'm sorry to a lot of folks. Like, it was amazing working with a lot of people. It's great seeing you still got people like Roland and Eli and Jesus Zilla. He's still around.
Hmm.
Yeah. But at the same time, we do need to try to lighten up too. We need to look back and say, just have fun with it. There were people I saw chased out because somebody's character was not the way they wanted. That happened to Kamek, one of the nicest people I'd ever met in this community.
I was wondering what happened to him too, but yeah.
I can't really go into that without naming names,
Hmm.
but basically what happened is he released a character from Kikyu Yarrow, cute little girl there. I can't. Yeah, Rico, I think it was.
Hmm.
And a certain individual did not really like the way she was designed, and he basically hounded Kamek to death. Yes, you can probably put two and two and forget and figure out who I'm referring to.
Probably, but I'm not sure right now. But yeah, that sucks to hear that for sure.
There was a lot of that, I think, too, around that time, where people were more or less upset. This character does this, and I don't like that. It's like, I
Too
mean,
bad?
yeah, I mean, it's not your work. I mean, you can get upset about it all you want, but you didn't put those hours into building that. Even if you make your own, it's not going to be exactly the same. Even if you made the most accurate character in the world, and then you get upset because someone else's isn't as accurate. What the hell are you doing? What are you doing here? And you had that happen a few times too, where people were getting upset at another creator because they started working on a character first. They were making it all accurate. Somebody else just went, nope, slap this together. It's like, great, that guy slapped it together. Don't download it?
Yeah.
I'm really surprised M.U.G.E.N's still around. At the same time, I'm glad to be a part of it. I mean, I know I've made great friends. I've made great enemies along the way. Walt at one point actually said to a lot of people I was basically what they saw as KungFuMan. I know that's kind of been a point of contention for a few people, but I kind of like that too, and it's one of the reasons why I've kind of stuck with the name.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I did that monumental screw ups from time to time, I do want to try to do good. I do want to be able to help other folks, and I think that's what the community needs as a whole. Because we basically have a beta of an engine that we haven't even fully tapped the potential of. People are still finding new workarounds. People are still finding new things to mess with, and that's where you need to innovate. And that's where you need to work together and not just go, okay, I'm gonna add character B here and just do this. Like, no, mess with the thing.
Mm-hmm. It's real. Like in a lot of ways, I've definitely pushed Mugen to its core with a few things, and even with what I'm working on now, I caused it to glitch out in an exponential way that I don't quite understand, and I had to work around that. But
Oh, it's always fun when you get that one glitch that ends up actually doing something. You're like, how the hell did I do that? And you actually want to keep that.
well, in this case, like it soft locked the character until like whatever I did just went away, and I have no idea what caused it. So that was confusing to say the least, because like there was no conditions on any of his moves that would be affected by what was out, but it soft locked the character.
That's strange.
Yeah.
Well, there's also the one of the biggest problem with a lot of characters too. I'm trying to think how to put it. You have a lot of instances where M.U.G.E.N does not really tell you the best way. This is how this character screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you've been going through and just copying and pasting headers to states and whatnot and then not naming them individually, have fun when it tells you state 500 comma 0 is having an error and you have 10 500 comma zeros.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, you can kind of apply labels to every S control, but it's still a pain. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah. I kind of wish too there was a lot more interaction with a lot of works. Like we have a controller that allows you to look for stages and just go with that. And a lot of people don't even touch that.
I honestly didn't know it was there. Like I knew it was there, but I didn't know where to find it. Or is that a stage only thing?
No, the stage name or the stage fair trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, that came out. People been begging for that for years. How much stage interaction do you see?
Almost none.
Yeah, and that's something that could be looked into. At the same time, I'm gonna say if you just absolutely cannot fight the urge to go and grab something else and update it, start adding crap like that.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, we have tools now. Like back in 2005, I was working with Art Money trying to figure out how to rep sprites. A lot of the reason we have the sprite ripping stuff we do now is because of what I was doing in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you still have people who will grab things and then just align them in all sorts of weird ways, and you can tell when you load the character. It's like, but you have these resources, use them. You have Jesus Zilla putting together a collision viewer, or we literally hand you the code. The amount of interest so you see in that is almost none, and it's at some point kind of maddening.
Well, you can lead a horse to water. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it can't be any simpler than I'm going to hand you your collision box.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were hand drawing that shit.
Yeah.
You don't even want to see the original Abyss collision boxes when I did him. Have you seen Skullgirls?
Yeah.
It was that.
Oh god, the auto collision tool.
Yeah. Well, no, I did that manually. I was an idiot.
That's even
And
worse.
you think that's bad? Consider the fact that Abyss's animations are split up into one-tick frames, so you can do his hyper armor.
Well, that makes sense. Like technically, the way when I updated Super Armor code to actually be functional like MVC2, I had to do that with a few specific instances. But I also got around that by just coding a time check with it too.
Well, the one kicker that ended up happening, there's one tool, I can't remember which one it was, but if you used it afterwards, basically it split all your collision defaults and it split it up into the individual animation frames.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you had each frame getting its own collision that was about a mile long.
Mm-hmm.
So when I finally removed it, I'm stuck removing whole chunks, and the file goes from like 35 kilobytes down to 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not a good time.
Does not sound like it.
But that's how you learn. That's really how you learn it. But I think a lot of people need to start looking into, there are more resources out there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to utilize. There's a lot of interactions. Just start, if somebody makes a character like Anacrus, look how his attack's working for like shrinking if he has that, and try to adapt your stuff to work with that. That interaction will let people want your stuff more. And at the same time, it builds a sense of things working together like gears. Instead of oh look, you have DBZ Fighter versus Street Fighter. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, I gotta say, it's been a very, very, very interesting interview, and I'm so glad you were able to take some time out and talk to me.
Sorry for rambling so much, man.
No, it's fine. There are people who've done more than you in the past, and I just let them talk because it was either interesting or very informative, and I wasn't gonna tell them to stop. That was the goal of this entire
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, to be honest, at some point, I mean, hell, when I came back, I didn't even think people wanted me back. There were a few people who kept suggesting I take a most mysterious approach and just come back under a different name. Even though,
Mm-hmm.
let's face it, everybody knows who most mysterious is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no fooling anyone behind that curtain, wizard. But no, I stuck with it. And actually, one of the things that helped a lot when I was on Twitter, I had like a fistful of people who pointed out and said, "Oh, hey, you're this guy," and I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "Did I give you hell before?" At that point, I'd basically been told nothing but, "Oh, look, well, basically you were a blight on the community."
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say you're nobody until you've been compared to Hitler.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it was strange because they were actually happy to see me, and they wanted to ask me about things I'd done, and even one was a warehouser, and his response was basically, yeah, I mean, I disagree with you a lot, but you said against some things that were incredibly stupid, and I appreciated that, and it was kind of surprising. So slowly, I just kind of got peace with being seen as KungFuMan in the community there, and just kind of wrote the character.